Hello again everyone, the Green Scorpion here, and welcome to week 2 of Patreon month. The month where I can catch up on Patreon requests and get a little break from talking about weapons. Oh dang it! Okay, time to improvise. As requested by GUNBLADEKNIGHT, fitting, today we'll be looking at those who specialize in whatever weapon they can get their hands on. Not everyone can spend their whole lives with a sword or a gun at their side. Sometimes you get caught off guard, and unless you like punching things or have some powers to fall back on, you're gonna have to work with your surroundings. This is my favorite part of any Jackie Chan movie, when the hero pulls out some ridiculous moves with some ridiculous curios. This topic has actually been on my mind for a while now, but I wasn't planning on getting to it for Weapons Month 5, or anytime soon, so thank you GUNBLADEKNIGHT, now we can get to it early. Consider this an official installment of the Weapons Month collection. But improv has rules, and so does this list. I'm grading these fighters on two main factors: how well they can fight, and how creative can their armaments be. Basically, how good are they at improvising? It's expected that in video games you're picking up tools along the way, and a hero has to get the hang of them pretty quickly. That's worth consideration too, but I'm also looking for things that aren't traditionally weapons, going against the grain of the object's use. Then there's characters like Kirby or Mega Man who constantly get new powers from their enemies, but I want to steer away from copycats for now and save that topic for another day. And if you have a problem with the order of these entries, just remember, everything's made up and the ranks don't matter. I am the Green Scorpion, and these are my top 10 video game weapon improvisers. Just because a weapon is unconventional doesn't necessarily mean it's improvised. We all had a laugh at Shovel Knight and his chosen Excalibur. We're not used to seeing a shovel used in combat to this degree. But it's also Shovel Knight's signature weapon. He's not really improvising when he uses it, he's had a lot of practice. Finding 10 entries, I had this issue a lot. Venom from Guilty Gear just barely missed the top 10, because in lore it says that he learned to fight with anything, but we always see him fight using a pool cue and some magic. That's still pretty awesome, but I think we can go a little less crazy. A pool cue is at least designed to strike things, but who would think to fight with a lamppost? Yeah, you know where I'm going with this one. Sit around the fire, and I'll tell you the story of Jax, the Grand Master at Arms. Before all the reboot shenanigans, the whole idea of the League of Legends was for political disputes to be decided by champions rather than full-scale war. Most champions hail from specific city-states, represent some kind of political change, or else are terrible magical entities imprisoned there for safety. Not Jax, though. Until the reboot, we really didn't know much about him. He was just this mysterious soldier for hire, recommended as a champion by the head of the Institute of War himself. He was just that good. Maybe too good. A Grandmaster at Arms, Jax toyed with his opponents with spears and swords, winning 154 matches straight. At one point, the regulators were afraid this unbeatable warrior would create unrest in the operations of the League, so they placed restrictions for how and when Jax could fight. Jax found this ludicrous, and made a few restrictions of his own in protest, vowing only to fight with a brass lamppost. His point was made and the League rescinded their rules, but Jax likes a challenge and kept the lamppost. So again, we know he can use any weapon, we just only see him use this lamp. Similar problem to Venom, but Venom's style relies heavily on magic. Jax uses magic too, but it's mostly in the form of buffs and debuffs. The actual attacks are all physical, and besides, I've never seen Lamp Fu. That thing must weigh a ton, but he spins it around like a helicopter and sets into defensive stances that automatically block basic attacks. Pretty good for someone with only 3 fingers. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Ninja Turtle under that mask. The new lore moves his homeland from Ionia to Acacia, and he's somehow been altered by the Void. Okay, I can live with that, but I can't find any mention of why he fights with a lamp in this continuity. He doesn't even use the flame on it, it just looks cool when he spins it around. If you switch to other skins, you can see him fight with some more unconventional weaponry, like a fishing rod and this bamboo staff that kinda looks like the roll wrapping paper comes on. And you'd think Jaximus would break that ideal with his poleaxe, but apparently the thing's made of plastic. Whatever his deal is, Jax earns the title as the Master of Arms. Seriously though, 154 wins straight? I've killed Jax tons of times, he must have been playing in Bronze League or something. Get off your Smurf account and face me like a man, Jax. I'll be the Fiora farming top lane. Venom and Jax are quite formidable. In fact, I'm pretty sure they'd wipe the floor with almost everyone else on this list. But as I've said, I want characters who improvise. in-game. We need to see it. Which is why we're going to advance from an undefeated merc to a pair of grade schoolers. Hey, they may not be much, but they're the best this town's got. Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a cult classic SNES title where the heroes, Zeke and Julie, try to make the title not happen. I was gonna pick just one of them, maybe Julie for not wearing pointless 3D glasses, but they're functionally identical and make a great team in co-op, so they can share the spot. And the zombies. All manner of horror classics have invaded suburbia, from aliens to chainsaw killers to giant mutant babies, and the kids are out to stop them with whatever they can find lying around. Their go-to are these cheap water guns, which can kill zombies and vampires with one spray. At first I thought these were some kind of water-soluble zombies, but read the instruction manual and you'll discover that the pistols are filled with holy water. Okay, I can get behind that, but where are you finding all of this sanctified water? Did you rob a church, or is one of you ordained as a priest? The many gag weapons found around the town cover the weaknesses of different monsters. There's a fire extinguisher that can freeze enemies in place, throwing popsicles is surprisingly effective against the jelly blobs, weed whackers are just fun in general, and you can quickly dispose of werewolves with silverware. Don't forget to steal a bubble gun from the invading aliens, and holy smokes, a bazooka! Turns out the military stepped in to combat the threat, but they just cower in fear when the enemy is around. Hit the showers, Private, this is kids' work. It's like every tyke's dream after they see Home Alone. There's some sort of invaders, and you take them out with all of your favorite toys. Sodas become grenades, and tomatoes become torpedoes. It's a silly concept, but hey, this is a silly game. Your move, Jax. Power tools. When used with safety and precision, they can help make our lives easier. When used with complete disregard for human life, they are a lot of fun. Nail guns, cordless drills, not to mention chainsaws. And that could be its own list, though. I have half a mind to put Tim the Tool Man from Home Improvement on here. Just look at him go. But what about industrial equipment? Better yet, futuristic industrial equipment. If it can fix a space shuttle, just think what it can do to flesh. Especially in the hands of an experienced engineer like Isaac Clarke. Poor Isaac, he never asked for this. As part of an extraction group, it's his job to repair space stations while the Marines deal with any threats. But no one expected the necromorphs. Isaac traverses the derelict craft, defending himself with whatever he can find lying around. I guess you can say that about most protagonists. Link finds a tool in every dungeon that's perfect for the situation, Samus comes across random cannons that just happen to work perfectly with her Variasuit, but in Isaac's case, aside from the occasional submachine gun or pulse rifle, all of his weapons are tools that should never be used for violence. His go-to is the plasma cutter, intended for carving through rocks while mining for precious minerals. Turns out this is perfect against the necromorphs, who apparently don't mind being riddled with bullets. Dismemberment is the way to go with them. In Dead Space 2, he's caught off guard at the hospital when it's onset by morphs, so he makes his own plasma cutter out of a surgical laser and a flashlight. Other weapons include a rivet gun for pinning the beasties down, an electrical joiner that decimates just as well as it welds, and an acetylene torch he converted into a flamethrower, which he can turn into an ice variant by applying some cryogenic fluids. Should I even count the hand cannon? It's a joke weapon, but seeing Isaac score one-hit kills with a foam finger is pretty fantastic. Apparently Sony thinks Isaac's pretty formidable because in PlayStation All-Stars, they set his rival battle against freaking Zeus! Greek gods are one thing, but fam, you do not mess with an engineer. What can I say about Jack Kamen that hasn't already been said? Well, he's a good improviser. Has that been said yet? I had to deduct points because Jack does have a preferred default weapon, his arm-mounted chainsaw. I said that was another list, Jack. A former Navy SEAL and Special Ops agent gone rogue, Jack shows up for the 2019 Deathwatch games with 3 games under his belt. Which has to mean he won all 3, right? Deathwatch isn't a game you lose and come back for. He's also a mechanic, so he might have made the cyborg appendage himself. But if you're playing Mad World right, you're not leaning too much on the chainsaw. To proceed in Deathwatch, you need to kill everyone you see in the sickest ways possible. Luckily, the Game Masters placed horrifying hazards all around the city. Jack can stuff someone in a barrel, skewer them on a road sign, jam them onto a spiked fence, and if he wants the big points, he can do all 3. Aiding Jack in his killing spree is his gorilla strength, which might be from cybernetic implants or might just be pure badassery. He's not without a sense of irony and really loves killing bosses with their own weapons if he gets a chance. Twirlin' Killer's wind turbine comes to mind. I'll admit that in Anarchy Reigns, he's more about his primary weapons and less the improv weapons, but that game has its own universe, so we'll ignore it. Besides, what's not to love about grinding a dude against a passing train? Or distracting them with a rain of money? You'll find out quick that a lot of the weapons in this game have the same 3 implementations, but it never gets old. At least not for the Death Watch judges, they can watch that garbage all day.
Jack banged that guy. He banged him hard.
Jack is going to be banging guys all night with that gong around.
He's going to bang a whole gang of guys.
You're saying there's going to be a gang bang?
Yes, we will probably see a big old gang bang tonight.
Have we played out the whole bang as a reference to sex, Joe?
I can't think of any more.
The greatest negative backlash I ever got in a single video came from my top 10 vampires list during Monster Month. In that video, I mentioned a vampire named Arquid and a fighting game called Melty Blood, which I said I couldn't consider because it's based off of Tsukihime, a visual novel. Thus, began a riot in my comment section that I didn't consider visual novels video games. How could I do that? Am I insulting people who like visual novels? Do I realize that games like Ace Attorney and Danganronpa are basically the same game, even though I talk about those games all the time? Well, the real answer is that Comic and I are old men who failed at basic slang. We looked up Tsukihime and mistook the term visual novel for graphic novel. You know, like a fancy word for comics? And Tsukihime also has a manga adaptation, so I literally thought it started as a manga. I'm sorry, comics sorry, we messed up. And while I'm still not sure how game-like I consider Tsukihime, I'm willing to include a character called Hisui. Hisui is the younger of the twin maids who work under the Tono mansion in Tsukihime. She's a lot of things. She's very serious, she's secretly loving and protective, she's efficient at all kinds of housework, and disastrously bad at cooking. But one thing she's not is a fighter. At least not in Tsukihime. Instead, she and her sister are synchronizers, meaning they can transfer life energy between people through the transfer of bodily fluids, either by giving blood or engaging in certain activities. Yeah, it's that kind of novel. But in the fighting game follow-up, under the influence of an evil vampire, she gained incredible speed and strength, and now can hold her own against the big hitters. Hisui's fighting style is, to put it one way, hilarious. She's not just cleaning floors and shelves anymore, she's cleaning your clock with a feather duster and a broom. Her klutzy kitchen skills are put to good use with deadly knives and frying pans. And she rearranges furniture at people. We're talking lamps, chairs, and entire tables getting swung around like they're nothing. Fighting game characters like this often employ some sort of hammer space to store all of their ridiculous weapons, but I like to think that, as a protector of the mansion, this could just be her picking up the nearest thing regardless of weight and keeping her house safe. She'll smash you with spatulas, she'll batter you with a bucket, she'll outskill you with a skillet, and if she doesn't have time to grab a weapon, she knows how to use her head. Once she gets you pinned into the corner, well, you'll have a fun time identifying all of your different bruises later. If there's one thing this Maid of Honor does well, it's taking out the trash. At number 5, we have Agent 47 from the Hitman series. Still the greatest assassin gaming has ever known, because he was literally made for this job. In a lab. Despite that, I wouldn't call him an edgelord, he's actually pretty level-headed and ruthlessly efficient. He was genetically optimized and raised in an asylum as the perfect killer, to be hired only by the richest bidders. That's why he has a barcode tattooed on the back of his head, which you'd think would be kind of conspicuous, but luckily he's a master of disguise. From a young age, 47 excelled in his training. Not only was he more talented than his fellow clones, but more emotionally developed. He even managed to escape the asylum once as a kid. He killed another clone with a garrote wire he fashioned from some plastic curtains and a broken broomstick, and then took out some guard dogs with a bow and arrow before sneaking off. The scientists eventually caught him and brought him back, but were so impressed with his skills that they rewarded him with ice cream. Every mission in the Hitman series is a little sandbox. You have your target in an open area. Your job is to get in, kill who needs to be killed, and get out safely. preferably without being seen, but that's really up to you. When it comes to weapons, he has some favorites: silenced pistols, knives, and choking wire to help him take out targets quietly, and he can kill them from afar with a sniper rifle, or he can set up explosives or poison their food and make an exit before the crime is even committed. But you'll be amazed how many ways there are to kill people in this game. Humans are delicate things, and some of these missions allow for more than 30 different causes of death, dealer's choice. You can take the bully route and administer some lethal swirlies. You can drop chandeliers on people, pull them out of windows, or push them off of balconies. In one case, you can trick someone into activating an ejector seat on a plane. And if you blow your cover, you have to fight your way out, and there's a lot of options for that too. Fire extinguishers, screwdrivers, crowbars, golf clubs, scissors, bricks, you name it. If it's heavy or sharp, it'll work. As good as he is with handheld weapons though, it's those environmental kills that get me. Anyone can shoot a guy in the head, but killing someone with the skeleton of a giant whale? Priceless. "2007 was a great year for gaming in general, but I'll always remember it as the year we remembered how screwed up old cartoons were. Cuphead was a huge hit, and we have Bendy and the Ink Machine cashing in on that dementedness in a horror setting. But let's not forget the first character in recent memory to pay homage to the Fleischer era, Peacock from Skullgirls. The whole game embraces a 30s film style, with Peacock being a love letter to old-timey animation, and it did not skimp on the disturbing factor. This is Skullgirls. So, time for another story about a little girl being tortured. Once known as Patricia, she grew up in an orphanage with her friend Marie, until one day they were captured by slavers. Patricia was a feisty one and didn't take well to orders, so the slavers decided to make an example out of her by chopping off her limbs and gouging her eyes out. She's 13, by the way. She was rescued by anti-Skullgirl Labs, the same people who made Pinwheel happen, and one agent, Big Band, felt bad for her and took her to a brilliant doctor who could fix her up. You know how Peacock has those black Mickey Mouse eyes? That's sort of a visual pun by the art team, because what you're actually looking at are two dark, empty holes. In lieu, Dr. Avian outfitted her with the experimental Argus system, setting up sensors all over her new mechanical arms that could send visual data to her brain. And that's not all. Patricia also happens to be the perfect candidate for the Avery unit, which gives her the power to warp reality. Patricia was no more, and Peacock was born, and unlike Pinwheel, she quite liked working for Anti-Skullgirl Labs. It was a good way to let off some steam. It's funny to me how the ASG team members are the three most high-concept characters in the roster. And what I mean by that is that they have movesets based not on a particular power set, but on a theme. Valentine utilizes anything you might see at the hospital, and Big Band is all about musical instruments. Peacock's reality warping powers, though limited, are fueled by her love of cartoons, resulting in some deadly slapstick. Like a wascally wabbit, she utilizes hammer space and pulls out anything that tickles her fancy. She kicks up floorboards, even in places without wooden floors. She has pies, novelty guns, a magnifying glass, this reenactment of the Charlie Brown football kick, and baseball bats to work with. I'd be remiss not to mention her imaginary friends that come along for the ride. George Baum and his big brother Lonesome Lenny, Andy the Anvil, Tommy 10 Tons, and a murderous little bird named Avery. I see what you did there. Considering that she's already a weaponized cyborg with built-in weapons, the fact that she'll resort to a burlap sack is just hilarious to me. I think my favorite is the simple move with the cigar. She's usually smoking one anyway, might as well hurt someone with it. To round it all out is her special move, Shadow of Impending Doom. Summoned by a little whistle, it'll drop just about anything. Teacups, fish, flower pots, refrigerators, steamrollers, see what you did there too, everything but the kitchen sink. Oh, there it is. You have a problem with imitatable violence? Well, imitate this! Let's stick with the concept characters. Hisui, Peacock, even characters like Phoenix Wright in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they have a theme, and the power to just pull things out of thin air. But can you really hurt someone just by throwing stacks of legal papers at them? Phoenix isn't even really fighting in this game, he just happens to hurt his opponent. I was thinking of listing Villager from Animal Crossing for the same reason. Smash 4 showed us that this adorable avatar was actually a psychopath who kills without remorse. But it didn't feel quite right. The villagers only really fight in the context of Smash Bros., which would be fine for this list, but I feel the need to count him as a Super Smash Bros. Character since it's that iteration I'm looking at, and I've already got a plan for Smash Bros. He was hiding right in front of us for 10 years, waiting in the darkness, because he is the darkness. It's time we shine some light on the enigma that is Mr. Game & Watch. Who is this guy? I mean, I know what he is. He's a reference to the Game & Watch series of single-game handhelds that predated the Game Boy. But who is he? Nintendo will tell you that he's been around since the first Game & Watch game, Ball, in 1980. Which is weird because he has eyes in that one. Sometimes he has a mouth. Sometimes there's multiple of these things working together. And in the box arts for Greenhouse, Rain Shower, and Lifeboat, you can see him in color. That's just unnatural, man. This characters never had a name or identity. They were just the guys in these games. He wasn't even in some of them. Some of these handhelds clearly starred Donkey Kong Jr. or Mario or Mickey Mouse. Fast forward a little to Smash Bros. Back in the earlier titles, there was a lot less suspension of disbelief, if you can believe it. Concept characters like Villager and the Wii Fit Trainer wouldn't even have been accepted. You can't put them in a game, they don't have weapons, they don't hurt people, how are they supposed to fight? Nowadays we don't really give a crap, but in Melee they introduced this oddball, a representative from a primordial era. They named him Mr. Game & Watch, retroactively crediting him as the star of those 17 classic games, and creating Smash's first concept character by arming him with accessories from the entire 60-game series, even some of the games he wasn't in. Much like Peacock, Mr. Game & Watch just produces whatever he needs. But while most of Peacock's armaments are clearly designed to cause harm, or at least havoc, virtually none of Game & Watch's tools are actual weapons. Well, maybe these hammers that he originally used for killing moles. Aside from that, it's a judge's gavel that produces some random effects, a frying pan full of sizzling hot sausages, a large key, a fishbowl, a manhole cover, a diving helmet, a sea turtle, and an oil can that can absorb projectiles. I think now that he's been around for these 3 Smash games, we've just kind of accepted him. But anytime I try to conceptualize the world of Smash Bros., I always get stuck on Game & Watch. What must seasoned warriors like Link and Samus think when they see this big-nosed cretin ringing a bell at them? Can they even see him, or is he just a line from their angle? Subspace Emissary just ran wild with him, so I guess he's full of pure darkness and produces shadow bugs that can be used to make dark replicas of other people? And the wiki states that he has no concept of good or evil. What does that even mean? Why did you feel the need to tell us that? His final smash is turning into an octopus. Okay, I get the reference, but like in universe, what does that mean? Was he always the octopus? I thought he was the diver back in that game. Why can't he turn into an octopus? Sorry, rant over. This is starting to make my head hurt. Just don't think about it too much. You try to get in depth, but he literally has no depth to give. He's just a reference made flesh. Have you ever done improv? You know, like, whose line is it anyway? The whole idea is that you have nothing. No script, no scenery, no props, but with a good imagination, you have everything. That's what I'm reminded of when I think of this next character. The most powerful being on this list, and possibly in any game ever, Maxwell from Scribblenauts. An otherwise average boy, Maxwell inherited a magical notebook from his parents. All he has to do is write the name of an object, and that item materializes in front of him. Living or dead, animal, mineral, or vegetable. If you can spell it, Max can make it, and there's a pretty handy suggestion list even if you can't spell it. If the game doesn't know what it is, Unlimited has a handy item editor so you can design your own. At first, Maxwell uses his godlike powers to cause mischief, but he manages to peeve off a wizard who curses his sister to turn to stone, so Maxwell sets out to collect star rights that can reverse the curse, which are collected by helping citizens with their everyday problems. Okay, Maxwell, couldn't you have just written the word antidote in front of your sister? I feel like that would have worked. While other improvisers on this list have to work with whatever's lying around or what's in their designated hammer space, Maxwell has no such limitations. Everything is at his disposal from the very beginning. This includes some fun weapons, things as simple as a potato gun or as serious as a submachine gun, and fun stuff like shrink rays, clone guns, laser swords, or the Necronomicon. He can also outfit himself with wings or jetpacks for getting around, and armor if he needs some extra protection. But why fight when you can just make up minions to fight for you? Any animal you've ever heard of, including some mythical beasts, the Hydra, the Scylla, Ra, Odin, Cthulhu, they're all there. Monsters you create might turn against you, but then just preface their name with the word friendly or obedient, and you'll be fine. That's right, Maxwell can even write adjectives, so if he wants, he can turn his cohorts into giant, strong, fearless, flying, invincible zombies. Or he can change the properties of anything in the environment. That old man will let you into his yard? That's fine, he's blind now. Gotta rescue someone from a pterodactyl? That'll be easy when it's wingless. Being a god is fun. Hell, you can even make God! Fathom that! Despite all this, I just didn't feel right putting Maxwell in the #1 spot. Sure, he can will fire tornadoes into existence, but if I'm treating this like a weapons month list, Maxwell isn't really all that much of a fighter. I mean, he can fight if you want him to, he definitely earns the #2 spot, but these games are much more about puzzle solving. Really easy puzzle solving at that, but the fun comes from how many weird ways there are to solve the same problem. Make a virus and put it into a computer, help someone sleep by deafening them, summon Barack Obama and put him in a sarcophagus. The possibilities, like the title suggests, truly are unlimited. Is it still improv when you have everything in your pocket? There's only one correct answer. Yes, and. You know what isn't improvised? The #1 spot. It was always going to be Frank West. Yeah, obvious choice is obvious, but would you rather have a surprising list or a right one? And of course Frank nails it, because the Dead Rising series has always had improvised weaponry as its central selling point. Picture this, a photojournalist who loves an irresponsible adventure just as much as being the first with a big scoop. His best headline, Zombie Outbreak in Willamette. He'd make enough money taking pictures from a private chopper he hired, but the best angle for this sort of thing is full frontal, and the zombies are always smiling if you break their lower jaw. Taking a page from Dawn of the Dead, a shopping mall provides anything Frank could ever need to take on the hordes, as well as some still living psychopaths who are causing mayhem. A lot of guys like Jack and 47 make good use of the environment, but they come with guns or a chainsaw to get themselves started, the rest is just garnish. Frank drops on the scene with nothing but a camera and the clothes on his back, which he'll probably change for one of the dozens of goofy outfits in this game in case you were taking this too seriously. Frank might last a little while unarmed. He's a good runner, can heal himself with food or alcohol, and fights like a stocky Zangief. But he's never far from a weapon, and there are tons. Bowling balls, fireworks, lawnmowers, beach umbrellas, kitchen knives, cardboard cutouts, and it takes a special kind of person to kill a zombie with a toy Mega Buster. When I first thought of this list years ago, only the first 2 games were out, and I considered shaking the pot by instead awarding this spot to the second game's protagonist, Chuck Green, for his mastery of duct tape. Grab the right items, and Chuck can create a myriad of combo weapons. The chainsaw canoe paddles, the machine gun armed teddy bear, an electric wheelchair turned into a death throne, or the old reliable sledgehammer fire axe. But then the DLC dropped Case West, as well as the What If game called Off the Record, confirming that Frank can make just as many gadgets as Chuck. He's alluded to in Dead Rising 3, but makes his full return in Dead Rising 4, except the voice actor is different! I'm sorry, I'm still not letting that go. Though I have to admit, he's more resourceful than ever now, applying elements to his weapons like freaking Borderlands, crafting ridiculous Mad Max vehicles, and occasionally donning himself in mech suits cobbled together from trash. We've now jumped from camp horror to straight up science fiction. I guess that's the only way to go now. He's big enough to be a concept character in Marvel vs. Capcom, and he's freaking great. I mean, it's a fighting game. No one actually thinks Frank West could go toe-to-toe with Iron Man or Dormammu, but he's actually a highlight for me in Infinite Story Mode. In the cutscenes, he helps in the kinds of ways I'd expect Frank to help. He doesn't fight the giant symbiote head-on like Spidey or Redfield. He smashes a car with a baseball bat so that the alarm will weaken it. Now that's the Frank West I know! I could triple the length of this segment just by listing all of the different items he can kill a zombie with, but Frank is here for more than just quantity. Every weapon, whether it's a cactus or a cash register, feels distinct. There's a reason it's in the environment. Deathwatch didn't put it there for you. Frank's just smart enough to use it. Either smart or crazy, it's hard to say. If you've ever wanted to be Ash from Evil Dead, that's Frank West. Heck, he'll even tell you that's what he's referencing. We'd give you a trophy, Frank, but you'd probably kill something with it. I'm the Green Scorpion, and Gunblade thanks for letting me cross off a Weapons Month list early. It's certainly going to make 12 more Weapon Masters a lot easier. Thank you guys for watching, and next time, we've got some mysteries to solve.